Welcome to Reclaiming Me, a trauma-informed podcast helping women with complex PTSD heal the lasting impact of childhood attachment wounds from parents and caregivers, so you can finally release people-pleasing and perfectionism and learn to trust in relationships, beginning with the one you have with yourself. I'm your host, Cindy Payne, therapist, trauma specialist, and a woman who has walked this path both personally and professionally.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Midweek Reframe. In our full-length session on Monday, we took a deep dive into another Noah Kahan song from his latest album, The Great Divide. And this song is titled Willing and Able. And if you've been on TikTok, you've probably seen some people posting about this, and it is all about family estrangement, maybe sibling estrangement. And so we talked on Monday about the systemic wedge that emotionally immature parenting can drive between siblings. And if you haven't listened to the song Willing and Able, I am going to invite you to go back and do that, because I'm going to be, again, referencing some of the lines from that song, and it might not make total sense to you if you haven't heard the song, but I will do my best. And so on Monday's episode, we also touched on how one person waking up to the smog can feel like a betrayal to the one who is still convinced that it's really just the Northern Lights. And that is a shout out directly to his other song called Staying Still, which I did another full-length episode on, episode 112 and 113. So if you're curious, I invite you to go back and listen to those two episodes. And I will be honest, today's episode, it was one of the harder ones for me to script, because like many of you, as I prepare for my move to California, I am naturally looking at the Great Divide in my own family history. And I'm finding myself really sitting in that bridge that Noah sings about, the place where you wish you could know me and you wish you could do nothing together. But the reality is a lot more like kicking a rock around in the dark. I personally know the weight of loving someone that you can just no longer safely sit at a table with. I know that specific heavy silence that settles in when loyalty to denial is allowed to trump the loyalty of a bond. It is the grief of this realized distance, the kind where you are willing and able to build a bridge, but you also realize maybe that you are the only one standing on the construction site. And that is painful. So today, I really want to give you a tool to help you stay in your own skin when that silence begins to feel too loud. So the hardest part for me anyway of estrangement isn't just the loss of the person, but it is also the loss of the witness. Your siblings are the only people on earth who know exactly what it felt like in your home at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday when the air changed. They are the only ones who remember the specific tone of a parent's voice before a storm hit, or the way that you both had to hold your breath to stay invisible. They were in the foxhole with you. And when that bond severs, or when one sibling decides to stay in the smog while you begin to walk into the light, it can feel like your history is being erased. It is a specialized kind of loneliness where you start to ask, well, if they don't remember it that way, did it even happen? And that is self-gaslighting, right? And Noah Kahan captures this tension in the pre-chorus of this song when he sings about fighting over the childhood lie. So when you lose the witness, you can begin to feel like you're losing the evidence of your own life. You're left standing in the debris of this past that you shared together, but you're the only one willing to call it debris. And as an Enneagram 1, I've been talking a lot about the Enneagram these last couple of weeks. For me, this is where I get stuck. So I personally have this deep internal hunger for things to be right and for things to be just and for the truth with a capital T to be acknowledged. I want the shared narrative. I just do. It's a lot less lonely that way. I want to sit in that yard, like Noah talks about, at the end of the day and finally agree on what happened. But here is the somewhat painful reframe that I have had to face and continue to practice facing. And that is this: you do not need their consensus to have your truth. In a dysfunctional system, consensus is often just another word for compliance. So if the price of having a sibling or some other person that you care deeply about in your life is agreeing to a lie, if you have to pretend that the smog was actually the northern lights just to sit at the table, then I'm going to tell you this right now. The price is too high. Okay? Because what it's asking of you is to trade your reality for their comfort. And as hard as it is to hear, you just cannot build a healthy bridge on a foundation of self-betrayal. And believe me, I have tried multiple times. And what ends up happening is you just keep abandoning yourself to try to keep this bridge, just stable enough. But ultimately, what will happen is the bridge will crumble. There will be deception, there will be blame, there will be shame, there will be something that comes up, jealousy, envy, those are big ones. And the bridge, which was already shaky, just collapses. And I want to tell you something that took me a long time to learn in my own journey, especially as I navigate my own great divide right now, and that is this: you are allowed to be the sole keeper of your story. If your sibling or someone else that you care deeply about isn't willing or able to see this shadow, it doesn't mean that the shadow wasn't there, right? It just means that they are not ready to look at it yet. And your memories do not require a second signature to be valid. It just gets to be valid, right? This is my memory and it is valid. So when that silence feels too loud, I want to invite you to imagine yourself not as someone who has lost their history, but someone who is the curator of it. You are the one who had the courage to leave the lie behind. And that is courage, by the way. You are the one who is holding the light now. And folks, it is a heavy, sacred task and sometimes an extremely lonely one to hold the truth alone. But I'm here to tell you, it is far better than losing yourself in somebody else's denial. It just is. You can love the person who was in that room with you at 3 p.m. as a child, kind of sussing out the situation, while also accepting that the person they are today is no longer a safe witness to your life. So, the anatomy of the buzz. I want to talk about that specific sensation that happens in the body when we face family denial or even friendship denial. And I call this the Enneagram 1 buzz. And it is this. It is that humming, unsettled feeling in your gut that says, this is not how it should be. It is the sound of your internal moral compass spinning wildly because the people who should be your safe harbor are telling you that the storm you're seeing doesn't actually exist. And when that buzz rises, it is easy to get sucked into the feeling dominant whirlpool where we feel small, we feel unheard, and maybe worst of all, we feel desperate for them just to understand. But today, we are going to use a values-based anchoring. And this is actually a thinking move. So as an Enneagram 1, I've had to continue to practice this, and it's not an easy thing, but it gets a little easier as you work with it. It is how we grab onto something solid when the emotional ground is shifting beneath us. And so step 1, I would invite you to identify the value. So I want you to name the ache. Ask yourself, why does this estrangement or this distance hurt so much? And usually for people like us, the feelers, the highly sensitive people, the empaths, it's because the situation is rubbing up against a core value. And for me, it is truth. So my two core values are honesty and inner harmony. And for you, it could be the truth, or is it connection, or is it integrity? I don't know. But in the song Willing and Able, Noah sings, I tell the truth when I drink. So he's reaching for honesty in a system built on secrets. And when you identify your value, what you do is you actually also realize that your pain is actually is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of your devotion to what matters. So you are not hurting because you are difficult or hard to know or hard to figure out. You are hurting because you are refusing to trade your truth for a comfortable lie. Step 2, I'm going to ask you to check the alignment. So now we move to the diagnostic stage. Ask yourself the hard question. Can I have a relationship with this person to the degree that I want and deserve right now without betraying my value of honesty? So if the other person requires you to play the part or perform this ceremony, all the while ignoring the wildfire, then the answer is no. And here's the reframe. Again, the distance is not a failure. The distance is a boundary of integrity. You are not leaving them, but you are staying with yourself. You are refusing to be a bridge that leads to nowhere. And you're refusing to cross a bridge that might collapse at any given moment. And finally, step 3, the internal statement. So finally, we change the narrative. And this can be really liberating. So instead of letting this family system define your story as I lost this relationship, I want you to use an internal anchor statement. So try saying, I am honoring my value of honesty, even though it is heavy. Or here's another suggestion. I am choosing my integrity over their convenience. And this tiny shift in language is everything because it moves you from being a victim of the system, someone who was pushed out or overlooked or forgotten, to being the guardian of your own soul. It is the difference between being left standing in the debris and being the one who chooses to walk away from the wreckage to build something that is actually real. And again, losing the witness is hard. It is hard. It is painful. But becoming your own witness to your own life is the ultimate act of reclaiming yourself. When you stop laughing about the things that broke you, that hurt you, and you stop performing the ceremony for people who cannot really see you, then you are free. Before I wrap today, I want to leave you with a question to carry into your week. We've talked today about how these dynamics fracture bonds. Sibling bonds is what I've been focusing on, but the localized economy doesn't stay inside the family home. Okay, it seeps out. It follows us into our coffee dates and our group chats. And later on down the road, we are going to be talking about the friendship shadow. We are going to look at how to spot the competitive friend, the envious friend, the jealous friend, the frenemy, the one who cannot quite celebrate your wins because maybe in their nervous system, your success still feels like their loss. And we're going to be talking about how to recognize the subtle stings of envy and jealousy before they become toxic, and how to protect your peace without closing your heart. Because reclaiming yourself isn't just about looking back at where you came from. It's about choosing who gets to stand in your light today. So I hope you'll join me back next week, next Monday, for another full-length episode. We're going to take a little break from Noah Kahan's music on the podcast. And I have a guest on my show next week. So you'll have to tune in. I hope you will join me. Thank you so much. And be good to yourself, be good to others, and have a great rest of your week. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for spending this time with me today. I hope you leave feeling a little lighter, a little more grounded, and a little closer to trusting yourself and your inner experience. If this episode resonated with you, please follow or subscribe so future conversations can meet you when they're needed. And if someone came to mind while you were listening, consider sharing this episode with them. That's one of the ways this work reaches the people who need it the most. You can find me on Instagram at Cindy Payne Rooted, and you can also visit me at cindypayne.com, where you'll find all episode links, blog posts, practice updates, and a free people-pleasing style quiz designed to help you notice your patterns with more compassion. And remember, every small step towards healing, self-trust, and presence matters. You are worthy of this journey. Thanks, everyone.